got to ask you, Andrew. I want to find out about your journey into the junk removal industry. Like, how did it all start? What motivated you to start Jedi Junk?
So yeah, sorry, yeah, I kind of went on a tangent there. My bad. Um, Mute my phone. Okay, so how I got into junk removal, dude, it was very probably like a lot of people's stories, man. I was building software. We'll get into this later too, but I'm a software guy. That's why I'm building Autopilot. We'll talk about that later. But I've always been a computer software guy. Don't let the tattoos fool you. I got those. I got those just to get the women, right? I used them as a cheat code. But in reality, I'm a computer guy. And then during COVID, one of my apps that I was working on was a travel app, and COVID obliterated my travel app idea. The whole idea of this app was to travel with friends across the globe. You couldn't hang out with friends. You couldn't fucking hang out with your family because they thought you'd kill we don't got to get into COVID, but it was stupid, right? And you couldn't do anything. So I was super depressed. I was like, dude, I can't launch my app. I programmed for an entire year. I was building the software, and I'm an engineer. I was the coder. I'm the guy building it, and I was like, fuck this, dude. I'm not going to go get a corporate job programming for some other company. I'm depressed from building the software, and I couldn't do anything about it. So one of my friends had a trash company prior, he told me about this junk removal thing he was doing, and I always brush it off to the side because I was going to be this software engineer who's going to be a billionaire like Snapchat and, Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg. I was like, I was too cool for school. I thought I was the shit. Um, and then he's like, dude, you can make $1,000 a day. And I was desperate. I had a second kid on the way. And he's like, you can make $1,000 a day from picking up trash. So I put my ego to the side. First person I found was Matt and JoJo, Googling, YouTubing, how to make $1,000 a day in junk removal. And I was like, holy shit, you really can make a bunch of money doing this. So I went down the YouTube rabbit hole of junk removal and binged Steve Conroy. Steezy was up there, Ricardo, but Matt and JoJo, I was like, I probably watched every Matt and JoJo video. Then I finally made this decision. I was like, honey, I'm picking up trash. I was like, we got a kid on the way. I was like, I could probably grow this into a big business because it's scalable. And, I was like, I'll start on the truck and eventually I'll get off the truck. I'll turn this into an empire. And that's how I got in, man. It was desperation. It was honestly, so I didn't get into it like looking for some side opportunity to make some extra cash. I was fucking hurting. I was desperate.
What were some of the challenges you faced while running Jedi Junk?
So my challenges are probably different than most because I'm going to be completely honest here because I'm smoking a cigar with you. Um, I was in LA. I'm a tech nerd. Well, I was actually in Ventura County, but the population was a million, and a lot of people from LA are in the area. So getting business wasn't necessarily that hard for me because I rocked Thumbtack, I rocked Craigslist, I rocked social media, and I rocked Google Ads. Me personally, most people don't have this. Most people have this problem. They have a problem of getting leads. I kind of got into the game. I was technical. So getting leads wasn't necessarily the issue in the beginning because I caught on fast with all the like Thumbtack and Yelp, setting up Google My Business. I had a badass website from day one. Like I went ham, right? I went in. The hardest part for me was going from this computer white collar job where I thought I was the top shit. Like I was a I don't talk about this, and I will talk about this one day on my channel, but I made $10 million. I dropped out of high school. I don't have a dad or anything. So when I dropped out of high school at 17 years old, I didn't finish junior year. Well, I finished junior year, I didn't finish senior year. I dropped out of high school. I made $2.5 million a year later. And, I was young. I'm 37 now. We're talking 20 years ago. So um, I was always this internet guru who made millions of dollars. So the hardest part for me to answer your question was the humility. Going from being this look at me, I'm rich mentality to losing everything again and starting over and going from that to now I'm doing trash. So without sounding like a dickhead, It was hard to accept the reality, like, hey, I'm actually on the truck doing manual. You know what I mean? So that was hard for me to accept personally. So I had a massive ego problem, and I honestly think junk removal. Even my lady says, like, picking up trash changed who I am as a human. It made me a better person, and I truly believe that it did. It really humbled me and grounded me and made me like the person I am today. So um, that was the hardest part for me. I don't think that's going to be most, but I have to, this is my story, right? So for me, it was an ego thing.
Where did you make $10 million? That seems interesting. In high
So
school alone.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So this is something I haven't talked too much about on YouTube because people, I talk about junk removal, but I'll touch the surface a little bit. So when I dropped out of high school, I was building websites, Photoshop websites, funny video websites. Back in the day, there's like eBaum's World and all this stuff. I made a whole bunch of those little websites, and I had ads, Google ads, and I'd make money. Then MySpace came along, and I built one of the biggest MySpace websites in the world to supplement MySpace.com. I had MySpaceSupport.com, and people would come to my website to get glitter graphics, edit their profile, pimp out their profile. From the age of 17 to 19, I made almost $3 million. And this was all on a 1099 because Google pays you. They don't take taxes out. You're responsible for your own taxes. I didn't give a fuck about taxes. I spent all $3 million, all of it, right? I did not send any money. It was 1099. And then 5 years later, I did another startup where I made another $3 million. Then 3 years later, I did another startup where I raised $3 million for a fitness app. So collectively, I'm at about $10 million in my software journey. So I have the software experience of making millions, but since I had no father figure or somebody there to guide me, I was that young stupid kid spending the money like a retard. And I learned my lessons like massively. So, but I'm actually going to share the story one day on my YouTube channel because those lessons are, it's crazy. I have a crazy software background of making millions of dollars. And that's why I know autopilot's going to work. I've done it before.
Let me ask you, you were saying you weren't paying the taxes and all that. Did that eventually catch up with you down the line? Did you have to
Yeah.
answer the IRS and all that? And
Yep. And actually not as bad as you think it would be. A lot of people. So, if you want to get in, do you want me to kind of talk about it a little bit?
yeah, I'm really interested in this story, man.
So,
Just hearing that somebody in high school making $10 million and, kind of just,
2.5 million right after high school. And
yeah.
then 7 years later, 10 million in total. Right. So from the age of 17 to 25, $10 million. And
It
I'm
probably
30.
was a fun time to be friends with you then, bro. I bet
Oh,
you were
dude,
partying it up and getting wild.
it was the best time. I'm not going to lie. It's the same old cliche story, right? Tons of people leeching, trying to figure out who your real friends are, blah, blah, same old bullshit that everybody talks about. But taxes caught up, not in the way that you think. So taxes, I sent in some taxes, not a lot. I still ended up owing like $250,000, and you get a penalty of interest for a long time, and then eventually they send it to a collection agency. And then as long as you are not evading, I was actually under, you know what? It doesn't matter. I'll spill the beans because you're the only one who's ever asked. Nobody's ever asked about my history, Paul. So you're the only one who's actually ever dove into this. But I was under criminal IRS investigation, not just an audit. I've been audited. Audits are fine. A lot of people get scared of the IRS. You should only be scared if you're actually hiding money. If you're not hiding money or evading taxes, you're going to be fine because you can classify yourself as a civilian who doesn't know what they're doing, right? You just made a mistake. You get a slap on the wrist. But if you are known actively as moving and hiding money, that's where evasion comes in. I was not doing tax evasion. I was a young kid who was retarded. So eventually, all of my money was sent to collections. $350,000 in tax money from the age of 17 to, they put a lien on my house. It was just a lien. The lien got lifted after 7 years. It just disappeared. And then by the age of 25, that 350K, guess what happened? And by the way, it fucks up your credit. There's no way around that. Like, I had a very rough life from 18, 17, 18 years old all the way to 27, 28. Had a very rough life, you know, getting into apartment, like rough. But eventually the government sent it to a collection agency. I forget the name of the collection agency. They work with like 3 collection agencies, the IRS. My passport was suspended too. Um, uh, and then they eventually reactivated my passport. But I got it down from 350K to 35K. They'll take anything at that point. 10 years later, so you can settle. And they've reset my entire thing. And I now have a 750 credit score. And I can go way more into, and I just started repairing my credit like a year ago because I fucked up during COVID again. But Uncle Sam is way more lenient as long as you communicate and you're not hiding money. So I have so many tax lessons that I have never, like that nobody's probably ever experienced because from the age of fucking 17 years old, you know? And yeah, so now the whole YouTube world knows, but
It's out there.
so now it's out there. Maybe I'll delete this video later or something, but on my channel. But now there was so many lessons that came, from being audited to criminal investigation to my passport being suspended to tax money being sent to collection agencies and just the whole process of how it works. It just kind of opened up my eyes of like, just don't lie.
It's you learn from it. And I see that you took the positive, now you know how to handle things, and now you got your head on
Oh,
right, and you've been through it all. So, went
oh, yeah.
from,
I would
you know,
like to say I don't like to brag, but I am a tax fucking professional. Like, and honestly, when I see people talk about taxes and they're like, "Oh, C corp, S corp, deduct this, deduct that," I kind of chuckle inside because I'm just like, I mean, you could literally deduct your entire life and you'll never be audited. Like, if you make under $500,000, you're not going to be audited. If you're, you know, it, even a million, $2 million, you're very unlikely to get audited unless you start like deducting fucking multiple G wagons and start being a fucking weirdo, right?